Good morning, Anne Arundel County. Good morning, America. Welcome to a special edition of Promoting Don't Get Fooled Again with Class. I'm your host, Anthony Bynum. The name of our production company is the Glen Burnie Players. So before we get started with the show, we want to put out an announcement. Episode 8 of Don't Get Fooled Again is currently airing. You can catch it on our YouTube channel, which is at Anthony Bynum 1948, or you can watch our local cable access if you are here in Anne Arundel County, and that is AAC TV. It's running at 7 o'clock on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, but it is also on Tuesdays and Saturdays at 10 a.m. in the morning. So if you get a chance to watch it, I think you'll enjoy the current episode. Now, as far as to this week's show, first of all, we want to give credit where credit's due. So we want to give credit for Wikipedia. Now, this is a special edition, though, okay? It's a special edition because after we do our Admire segment, we're going to take a look at our alien friend Auerbach as he tells his story. And he also tells the story of the Glen Burnie Carnival, and he also tells the story of the founding of Linthicum. So let's go ahead and take a look at people we admire. On the 25th episode, I took a look at Dr. James Naismith, because after all, basketball is my favorite sport. I mentioned one of his disciples, his name, John McLendon. So that's who we're going to focus on today. McLendon was born 6/24, 1882. He died 10/15, 1973. He was born, his father was Black or African American, and his mother was Delaware Indian. He was born in Hiawatha, Kansas. Now, he was a good student as a young man. He was a good student in high school also. But something happened along the way to change his life. See, he went on a field trip. I believe it was in the 6th grade. And there they went to Kansas City. And there they stumbled onto a gymnasium. And when they walked inside, or he walked inside, he saw somebody shooting baskets. And he became enamored with the sport of basketball. He said, I want to be part of this. So he went to community college for a year. He wanted to actually study at the University of Mass in Springfield, because that's where the game was invented. His father could not send him there. The funds just weren't available. But his father did something more important. He did some research, and he found out that Dr. Naismith was actually still around. He was teaching at the University of Kansas, because he had brought the game there many, many years earlier. He suggested that his son go to school there, and he suggested that he reach out to Dr. Naismith and ask him to be his advisor. And he did. And Dr. Naismith advised him for his whole time at Kansas. He taught him everything he knew about basketball, but more importantly, he taught him everything he knew about life. So Coach McLendon, we'll call him, had a long coaching career from 1941 to 1969. He coached in college. He coached in the ABL, and 1 year in the ABA, where Black coaches, it was just not heard of. This guy was really an innovator. He was really, really an innovator. Now, one of his greatest achievements is the secret game. So in 1944, March 12th, to be exact, there was a game held. Segregation was strictly enforced in North Carolina. Forget about South Carolina. It was strictly enforced. But that basketball team at North Carolina College, I believe they're now North Carolina A&T, I believe, they were fantastic that year, but they couldn't prove it. You see, Black colleges were not invited to the NIT or the NCAA. So there was some talk in town about a basketball team. There were a lot of intramural teams because of the war. There was a lot of very good intramural teams going on at the local colleges, and Duke was no exception to that. And there was talk of a intramural team of medical students at Duke that were pretty good. And they were talking a little bit about that. So yeah, it was on. Now there were some attempts to do some, integrating with the YMCA, but again, it was a dangerous proposition. So McLendon set things up. The game would be held at the college. It would be held during church, because everybody would be in church, at the time, church rather. They wanted to make sure that no one got in trouble for this. He had a referee, a scorekeeper, one local Black reporter who was sworn to secrecy. So the accounts of the game, early on, both teams were a little tight, but the Duke guys were a little bigger than the North Carolina Central guys. And so they worked the ball inside, and they were making their shots, but, Central played okay too. Somewhere at the end of the first half, beginning of the second half, the Central guys just kind of figured out the Duke team, and then blew them off the court. See, they had this thing that was called the fast break. Nobody was doing it. It was one of Coach McLendon's innovations. But it was a blowout. But after the game was over, there was a bigger innovation because the coach had all the players intermingle, and he changed the teams up. So to really learn what it meant, what it meant to treat somebody as your teammate, no matter what their complexion. He was a great man. There's no doubt about it. Like I said, he coached. He coached at Hampton for a year, by the way, and it's a great story. Coach John McLendon. It's a great story. So we're about to take a look at our friend Auerbach as he tells his story about why he's here in Anne Arundel County, and about discovering the Glen Burnie Carnival, and also about the founding of Linthicum. So we'll be back for the recap in just a moment. Thank you.
Everybody, I'm so happy to be here at the Linthicum Fair. So with us today is our friend Auerbach. Auerbach is an alien from a different galaxy. He's from a planet called Gaiatone. That's the planet right there. So the people from Gaiatone, they're called nebulars. They're an advanced race, but because they're so advanced, sometimes they get a little bored. When Auerbach was a little boy, he decided he wanted to explore. So with his parents' permission, he built a spaceship. That's the spaceship right over there. It's called the Icarus. And he decided to travel. But if he was going to travel, he was going to need some companions. So he brought along his Rog, which is right over there. And Gaiatone, they call dogs Rogs. So that's his friend over there, the Rog, who we call Red. Also, he needed to have some technical support. So he brought along his trusted companion computer, the Havlicek. The Havlicek could do all kinds of things. It could tie into other computer systems, it could navigate, and if necessary, it could steal the ball. But that's another story. So he travels all the way to Earth, all through the galaxies, and he ends up going to the North American continent, and he lands in a place called Maryland. But more importantly, he lands in a place called Anne Arundel County. And that's the reason we're here today, because we're going to tell the story of some of the stories, important stories about Anne Arundel County. The first one is about the Glen Burnie Carnival. And they just had that a couple weeks ago, and as usual, it was a great time. But the Glen Burnie Carnival was not always there, you see. Back in the beginning of the 1900s, there was no Glen Burnie Carnival, but there was a problem. They had this main road that was called Crane Highway, but back in those days, roads weren't paved. So when the men would need to take the trip to get on the train to Baltimore, their suits got dirty all the time. And they had to explain to their bosses why they looked so bad in the office. That's not a good look. Also, the women complained too, because when they were out shopping or doing whatever things they needed to do on Crane Highway, their beautiful dresses got dirty. The men in town decided they needed to do something. They met at the home of Arthur Hamlin. Wait a minute, let's double check that. They met at the home of Albert Hamlin to discuss what they needed to do. And what they decided to do, and this is what Auerbach found out through the computer, is they needed to raise some money to build a sidewalk. They couldn't figure out how to do it. They knew they needed a lot of money to do it, though. In the end, they decided that they were going to have a carnival. It wasn't a unanimous decision, but they just went ahead with it anyway. Okay, so we're getting our bearings straight. They went ahead with it anyway. They got some volunteers together, and that first year, one of the rides they had was a carousel. Now, the carousel was powered by 6 men, run by 6 men, and it had a mule that made the thing go round and round. But the biggest thing they had, the most important thing they had, was a ride up and down Crane Highway in a thing called the automobile. They were pretty rare in those days, but for a dime, you could get in there and maybe even beep your horn if you were lucky. So that first year, they raised $220, half the money they needed to build the sidewalks. But a local business stepped in and matched them. And the Glen Burnie Carnival has been going on ever since. Every year, people go to the Glen Burnie Carnival, and every year, they have a good time. But that brings us to another important place in Anne Arundel County. It's called Linthicum. It's a place where we are right now. Now, Linthicum actually goes back a long, long way. However, it was incorporated in 1908. You see, there was a family named by the name of Linthicums, and they owned a lot of land here. They're wealthy landowners. In fact, the first Linthicum that's reported to own land was someone named Abner Linthicum. He bought land in 1801. His family thrived in Linthicum. In fact, the town was incorporated in 1908 with the beginning of what they called the Linthicum Heights Company. Now, it's not quite clear what the Linthicum Heights Company did, and I'm still doing some research, and perhaps there's a historian out there today who might want to tell us, because that's important information. So Auerbach wants to learn more about the people of Anne Arundel County, and that's why he's here today, just to say hello to everybody. Now, if you are interested in learning more about some of the important things of our beautiful place called Anne Arundel County, feel free to check out our television show. The show's called Don't Get Fooled Again. In fact, we just released a new episode. It's already on cable access, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 7, Saturday mornings at 10 o'clock. We also do a post once a week. It's called Promoting Don't Get Fooled Again with Class. And every week, we talk about someone who we admire, but also we have an important fact about Anne Arundel County. Today, we profiled the Mailer brothers, who have been around since, I believe, this one I don't have in front of me, I believe the 1940s. But anyway, it's a great story because we live in a great place, Anne Arundel County. It's diverse. We got all kinds of nice people who live here. And if you're so inclined, you can get something to eat today. So, thank you everybody for taking a few minutes of your time. Thank you, Auerbach. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to say, Auerbach met a friend at the Glen Burnie Carnival. His name is Jose. He's over here. Jose, can you say hello to the people? Hello to the people. I threw that one in there. Jose's from Mexico. And how do you say hello in Spanish, Jose?
Hola.
We say hola. So, everyone, that's your lesson for today in Spanish. If you're interested in more information about the show, you can go to my YouTube channel. It's at Anthony Bynum 1948. And again, the show is on the cable access, so if you get the opportunity, please check it out. If you are interested in having part of your story told, then send us an email at aabynum@yahoo.com. That's aabynum@yahoo.com. I would love to have a chance to meet with you and help to tell your story, because we all live here in this beautiful place called Anne Arundel County. Well, everybody, until next time, bye-bye.
Wow, that Auerbach does get around, doesn't he? So I hope you've enjoyed this special edition of Promoting Don't Get Fooled Again with Class. Now, as I said, episode 8 of Don't Get Fooled Again is currently playing. You can see it on AAC TV or at Anthony Bynum, 1948. So for everyone here at the Glen Burnie Players, until next time, bye-bye.